The metallic screech of packing tape was a brutal soundtrack to the desecration of my life, each rip echoing through the childhood bedroom I was now haunting. I watched, a ghost in my own home, as Mom, no, Jiao Mei, sealed another box. Donation! The thick black marker screamed, the letters a final, dismissive wave to my college trophies, the photo albums capturing 23 years of my existence, every tangible piece of evidence that Lin Wei had ever drawn breath within these walls. My debate team captain award? The one she practically built a shrine for? I fumed, a powerless, invisible inferno. And the pictures from Dad's fishing trips? She always said she hated fishing. The audacity was breathtaking. This calculated erasure, this cheerful destruction, it was a performance, and I was its unwilling, unseen audience. My decision formed in that instant, cold and hard as diamond. She would not succeed. I would not be deleted. The cloying scent of her cheap jasmine perfume, a fragrance I'd always associated with forced smiles and thinly veiled criticisms, mingled with the dry, papery smell of cardboard dust, making my spectral stomach clench. Jiao Mei hummed, a cheerful, off-key tune that grated against the raw edges of my fury. She moved, with a light, almost girlish step, completely oblivious to my presence in the doorway, to the silent, screaming revenant witnessing this betrayal. How can she hum? I wondered, the sound a perverse counterpoint to the methodical dismantling of my past. Is there truly no flicker of conscience? No residual love for the daughter she raised? Each cheerful note felt like another shovel of dirt on my premature grave. My hands, insubstantial as they were, shook with a rage so pure, so potent, it felt like ice water injected directly into my ethereal veins. The chill was a familiar echo of the cold that had claimed me in that sterile hospital bed. She thought I was still there, wasn't she? Succumbing, fading away from the tragic accident that she and her loathsome husband Chen Gang had so meticulously orchestrated. An accident, I spat inwardly, the word of vile taste on a tongue I no longer possessed. They left me to die, convinced their little problem would just disappear. The sheer malice of it, the casual cruelty of a mother plotting her own child's demise, threatened to unravel the very fabric of my ghostly form, but rage was a surprisingly effective anchor. Oh, Chen Gang, darling, you won't believe how smoothly everything is going. Jiao Mei chirped into her phone, her voice dripping with saccharine satisfaction. I drifted closer, drawn by the sound of the viper she'd become. Yes, the last of her things are nearly packed. Such a relief to finally clear out this room. A pause, then a triumphant little laugh. The realtor, Mr. Henderson, confirmed again for tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. He said the cash buyer is very motivated. Absolutely, yes. He wants to close by Friday. Can you imagine, gang? By Friday, this whole chapter will be behind us, and we'll have the funds to finally start our lives. She listened for a moment, nodding. No, no complications at all. Everything is falling into place perfectly, just as we planned. It's almost providential, isn't it? Her voice lowered slightly. It's what he would have wanted, for us to be secure and happy. The hypocrisy was a physical blow even to a spirit. But what Jiao Mei, in her greedy, murderous heart, didn't know, couldn't possibly fathom, was the truth. I hadn't just conveniently faded away. I had died, yes, felt the cold, final embrace of it. And then, inexplicably, impossibly, I had returned, tethered to this world, to this house, by a will stronger than death itself. Now, listening to her seal my fate alongside those boxes, I knew my purpose. She thought she had until Friday. She was wrong. By my count, from her chirpy confirmation of the realtor's morning appointment, I had exactly 18 hours. 18 hours to stop her from stealing my inheritance, from obliterating every last vestige of Dad's memory enshrined in this home, and 18 hours to ensure she and Chen Gong paid for what they did to me. The game isn't over, Mother, I whispered to the empty air, the promise a nascent storm. It's just beginning. The tinny sound of Jiao Mei's voice, plotting the cheerful theft of my future, was the only motivation I needed. My fingers, surprisingly steady, flew across the screen of my phone. My old phone, miraculously still tucked in the pocket of the jacket I'd been wearing during the accident, now somehow with me, charged and functional. A detail for later. Right now, only one name mattered: David Kim. He'd been Dad's college roommate, his best friend, and later, his most trusted legal counsel. A man who knew our family history, warts and all, and more importantly, knew Dad's integrity. He was the only lawyer I could trust with the insanity I was about to unload. The phone rang twice, each chime an eternity, before his familiar, calm voice answered. David Kim speaking. David, it's Lin Wei, I said, my voice raspy from disuse, or perhaps from the sheer force of will it took to speak at all. A shocked silence on the other end. Lin Wei? My God, is that really you? We heard. Your mother said. She said I was dying, or dead, or conveniently out of her hair. The specifics probably changed depending on her audience. I cut in, the bitterness coating each word. Look, David, I don't have time for pleasantries or explanations right now. Those can wait. I need an emergency injunction filed, tonight. My mother, Jiao Mei, and her husband Chen Gong are trying to sell the house. Dad's house. Which, unless I'm mistaken, or Dad changed his will after developing a sudden fondness for leeches, is legally mine. Sell the house, David's voice sharpened. She can't do that without your consent if you're of age and sound mind. Lin Wei, what exactly is going on? Where are you? Currently, I'm playing hide and seek with the Grim Reaper in my childhood kitchen, and it looks like I'm winning for now, I said, a humorless laugh escaping me. David, they tried to kill me. It wasn't an accident, and now they're liquidating assets. The realtor is coming tomorrow morning, cash buyer. They want to close by Friday. I could almost hear the gears turning in his sharp legal mind. Okay, Lin Wei, okay. Tell me everything you know about the proposed sale. Any documents you've seen? Anything at all. An emergency injunction tonight is a tall order, but not impossible, especially with suspected foul play regarding the owners. Well, your well-being. I don't have documents, just her side of a phone call I overheard, I admitted. But Dad always said you were a miracle worker. He also said you were too stubborn for your own good, a trait that might just save your home, David countered, a hint of warmth returning to his tone. Give me what you have. And Lin Wei, I'm glad you called. Very glad. Relief, potent and immediate, washed over me. I wasn't alone in this anymore. 20 minutes later, after a rushed, whispered conversation detailing Jiao Mei's damning phone call and my miraculous return from the brink, I was, indeed, in the kitchen. The old terracotta tiles felt cool beneath my bare feet. Another mystery, the bare feet, the clothes I was wearing, the fact I was standing. But again, not the priority. I was pouring a glass of water, the simple act feeling monumental, when Jiao Mei walked in. She was still humming, a self-satisfied little tune, probably mentally counting her future winnings. She stopped dead when she saw me. Her phone, the one she'd used to seal her deals and gloat to her accomplice, clattered to the floor, the sound unnaturally loud in the sudden, suffocating silence. Her face, moments before flushed with triumphant greed, went a ghastly, chalky white, her eyes widening in sheer, unadulterated terror. It was, I had to admit, immensely satisfying. Lin Wei? She stammered, her voice a strangled whisper. Her hand flew to her chest as if to ward off an evil spirit. But you're supposed to be... She couldn't finish, her eyes darting towards the doorway as if expecting Chen Gang to materialize and make the apparition disappear. Supposed to be dead? I finished for her, my voice surprisingly steady, even cool. I took a slow sip of water, enjoying the way her eyes tracked the movement, the sheer impossibility of it. Sorry to disappoint you, Mother. Reports of my demise have been, as they say, greatly exaggerated. I even managed a small, chilling smile. Though I must say you don't seem particularly thrilled by my miraculous recovery. One might almost think you preferred me. Incapacitated. Just then, my phone buzzed on the counter, a welcome interruption to Jiao Mei's sputtering attempts to form a coherent sentence. It was a text from David. Got it, Lin Wei. Strong preliminary case. Judge Henderson is on emergency duty tonight. He knew your father. More importantly, I found the primary conveyance clause in your father's original will, the one Jiao Mei conveniently updated after his death. Article 4, Section B. Upon my daughter Lin Wei's 24th birthday, full unencumbered title of the property. shall automatically transfer to her, irrespective of any subsequent marital status of my own or guardianship arrangements for Lin Wei prior to this date. Ring any bells, Lin Wei? When was your birthday? My heart leaped. Yesterday. My 24th birthday was yesterday. While I lay in that hospital bed, hovering between worlds, the house had legally, irrevocably become mine. Zhao Mei had never mentioned that clause. She'd always spoken of the house as part of the estate, something to be managed and eventually, as it now seemed, sold for her benefit. She knew, I murmured, the pieces clicking into place. She had to sell it before anyone realized I'd turned 24 and the title had automatically transferred. My accident wasn't just about getting rid of me, it was about the timeline. I looked up at Zhao Mei, who was now trembling, her face a mask of dawning horror and something else. Guilt. Or just fear of getting caught. You seem agitated, Mother, I observed calmly. Bad news? Or perhaps you just remembered an important date you forgot to celebrate. Before she could respond, Chen Gang stormed into the kitchen, drawn by the sound of his wife's dropped phone, or perhaps by the sudden cessation of her cheerful humming. His face was already flushed, his eyes narrowed with irritation. May, what's taking so long? Did Henderson call back about the... He stopped short, his gaze falling on me. The irritation morphed into disbelief, then into a wave of crimson fury that seemed to start at his thick neck and climb all the way to his receding hairline. Unlike Zhao Mei's fear, Chen Gong's reaction was pure, undiluted rage. You, he snarled, his voice a low growl. He took a menacing step towards me, his fists clenching. You little bitch, you were supposed to stay in that hospital. You were supposed to be... Gone? I supplied, standing my ground though my heart hammered against my ribs. Out of your way so you could pilfer my father's legacy? So you could cash in his memory like a lottery ticket? My voice didn't waver. The fear was there, a cold knot in my stomach, but the righteous anger was stronger. As he lunged, not towards me, but perhaps towards the phone to call off the sale or his lawyer, I held up my own phone, David's text still glowing on the screen. Then, with a deliberate slowness, I reached into the pocket of the borrowed paramedic's jacket I found myself in and pulled out a sheaf of freshly printed papers David had emailed for me to print from the old library printer, the one Dad insisted on keeping functional. Looking for these, Chen Gong? I asked, my voice ringing with a triumph I didn't entirely feel but projected with all my might. Courtesy of David Kim and a very understanding night duty judge, it's an emergency injunction. Consider all property transactions frozen. His face, if possible, got even redder. The sound he made was somewhere between a choked gasp and an animalistic snarl. For the first time since I woke up in this nightmare, I felt a sliver of control. The game had definitely changed. The county courthouse waiting room was a symphony in beige and muted anxiety, filled with the shuffling feet and nervous coughs of people waiting for their slice of justice, or injustice, as the case might be. I sat beside David Kim on a hard plastic bench, the injunction papers clutched in my hand like a talisman. Across the hall, Zhao Mei, Chen Gong, and a weaselly-looking man in an ill-fitting suit, their lawyer, presumably, were huddled together, a little island of frantic energy. Their whispers were too low to discern fully, but fragments drifted over, carried on the stale, circulated air. Completely blindsided, Chen Gong's angry rumble. No legal standing, she abandoned the property. The lawyer's reedy assurance, lacking any real conviction. Then Zhao Mei's tearful, fretful whine. What if they believe her? What about the money from Henderson? David leaned closer. Don't let them get to you, Lin Wei, he murmured, his voice a calm anchor in the turbulent sea of my emotions. They're scrambling. That's good. Stick to what we discussed. The truth is your strongest weapon. Truth and a well-timed bombshell or two, I muttered back, a grim smile touching my lips. Dad taught me to always have an ace up my sleeve. He certainly did, David chuckled softly, though I doubt he envisioned it being used quite like this. Ready? I took a deep breath. As I'll ever be, let's make him proud, David. He squeezed my shoulder briefly. That, Lin Wei, is a certainty. My gaze drifted back to my mother. She looked older, somehow diminished without her usual veneer of self-assured matriarchy. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hands twisted a tissue into knots. For a fleeting second, a pang of something almost like pity resonated, but it was quickly extinguished by the memory of the packing tape, the donation boxes, the cold calculation in her voice as she plotted to erase me. No, there was no room for pity here. Only resolve. Case number 2025 CV0714, Lin versus Zhao and Chen. A bailiff's voice, devoid of inflection, cut through the waiting room hum. Courtroom 3B, Judge Mariana Fletcher presiding. This was it. We rose, David giving me an encouraging nod. As we walked towards the courtroom, I could feel Zhao Mei's eyes burning into my back. A mixture of fear and, dare I say it, a sliver of maternal shock that I, her supposedly fragile daughter, was actually going through with this. Chen Gong just looked like he wanted to throttle someone, preferably me. Their lawyer, whose nameplate I later noted read Arthur Finch, scurried ahead of them, clutching a worn briefcase as if it contained state secrets instead of desperate legal maneuvers. Courtroom 3B was intimidatingly formal, all dark wood and stern portraits of past judges, the air thick with the weight of countless adjudicated lives. Judge Fletcher, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense aura, surveyed us all as we took our places. David and I were at one table, Zhao Mei, Chen Gong, and Finch at the other. The tension was a palpable thing, coiling in the space between us. After the initial formalities, Judge Fletcher looked to Finch. Mr. Finch, I've reviewed the emergency injunction granted last night. Your clients wish to contest it. Arthur Finch rose, shuffling his papers. Yes, Your Honor, most strenuously. He cleared his throat, adopting a tone of practiced gravitas. Your Honor, my clients, Mrs. Jiaomei Lin Chen and Mr. Chen Gong, have been the sole dedicated caretakers of the property at 123 Willow Creek Drive for the past 6 years, ever since the tragic passing of Mrs. Lin Chen's first husband, Mr. Han Lin. He paused, letting the feigned solemnity sink in. During this extensive period, they have not only maintained the property, but have made substantial costly improvements, significantly increasing its value. They have poured their hearts, their time, and their financial resources into what was, for all intents and purposes, their home. This injunction, based on the sudden and unexpected reappearance of Miss Lin Wei, who, by all accounts, had shown no interest in the property for years, is causing them undue hardship and jeopardizing a legitimate, good faith sale agreement. He gestured vaguely towards his clients, who both attempted to look simultaneously aggrieved and responsible. They have acted only with the utmost probity, Your Honor, ensuring the estate was well managed. Improvements! The words slipped out of me, louder than I intended, sharp and incredulous. David put a calming hand on my arm, but I was already slowly getting to my feet, my gaze fixed on Finch, then drifting to meet the startled eyes of Zhao Mei. Judge Fletcher's attention swiveled to me. Miss Lin? Do you wish to respond? Through your counsel, perhaps? David started to rise, but I gave a small shake of my head. With all due respect, Your Honor, I believe I can address Mr. Finch's definition of improvements myself. I turned my attention fully to the opposing table. Tell me, Mr. Finch, were these substantial improvements you speak of before or after they removed my father's handcrafted mahogany bookshelves from his study? Bookshelves he built with his own hands, to make room for Chen Gong's oversized poker table and a neon beer sign? A faint gasp escaped Zhao Mei. Chen Gong's face darkened. Finch looked flustered. Well, my clients made decisions they felt best utilized the space for their current needs. Their current needs? I pressed on, my voice gaining strength. Did those needs also include selling off my father's first edition vintage book collection, piece by piece, to cover Chen Gong's rather unfortunate gambling debts? Or perhaps the improvement was replacing Dad's beloved rose garden, the one he won awards for, with a concrete patio because, and I quote my mother, flowers are too much work. The courtroom was silent. I could feel David's steady presence beside me, a silent endorsement. I fail to see how systematically dismantling every trace of my father's personality and passions from his own home constitutes an improvement to the property, unless the goal was to improve their cash flow at the expense of his memory. Judge Fletcher's eyebrows had indeed climbed significantly up her forehead. She looked from me to a sputtering Finch, then to Zhao Mei and Chen Gang, who were now studiously avoiding eye contact with anyone, especially each other. "Mr. Finch," the judge said, her tone crisp, "Miss Lin raises some serious points regarding the nature of these improvements and the stewardship of her father's estate. Perhaps you'd care to elaborate on the financial investments your clients made?" Before Finch could formulate a response, I continued, my voice clear and steady, addressing the judge directly but ensuring Zhao Mei and Chen Gong felt every word. "Your Honor, the improvements weren't just aesthetic choices designed to erase my father. They were also financial. Mr. Finch speaks of my clients pouring their resources into the property. I have evidence suggesting they were, in fact, extracting resources from it." I paused, letting that sink in. David subtly slid a file folder towards me. "For the past 3 years, they've been renting out the basement apartment, an apartment my father always kept for visiting family or as a quiet retreat for his writing." I saw a flicker of panic in Zhao Mei's eyes. Chen Gong shifted uncomfortably. "I have bank records, Your Honor, obtained by Mr. Kim this morning, showing consistent monthly cash deposits into a personal account belonging to Mr. Chen, deposits that conveniently match the going rate for a one-bedroom rental in our neighborhood. Income, I might add, that legally belongs to my father's estate, and by current standing, directly to me. Income that was never declared, never reported, and certainly never used for the benefit of the property itself." The silence in the courtroom was now absolute, broken only by the almost imperceptible hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Every eye was on Zhao Mei and Chen Gong. Chen Gang looked like a cornered animal, his face mottled with rage and fear. But it was Zhao Mei's reaction that was most telling. Her carefully constructed composure had shattered. The color drained from her face, leaving it a sickly, pasty gray. Her mouth opened and closed silently like a fish gasping for air. She knew. She knew I had them. The secret tenant, the clandestine cash flow, the years of quiet deception. It was all out in the open, exposed by the daughter they had tried to silence permanently. Her eyes met mine, and in their depths, I saw not just the terror of discovery, but the dawning, horrifying realization that the game was truly up. The carefully built house of cards, constructed from lies and greed, was collapsing around her. Her gaze dropped to her twisting hands, the fight visibly seeping out of her. For the first time, I felt a cold, hard certainty. I was going to win this. The house, Dad's memory, my stolen future. I was going to get it all back. Judge Fletcher's gaze, sharp and discerning, moved from Zhao Mei's crumbling facade to Chen Gong's barely suppressed fury, then to my own steady resolve, and finally to the documents David had presented. "Mr. Finch," she began, her voice leaving no room for argument. "While the complexities of family dynamics and estate management are often fraught, the evidence regarding the undeclared rental income from the basement apartment, coupled with Miss Lin's testimony regarding her automatic inheritance rights upon her 24th birthday, a date which, I note, has just passed, is compelling. Furthermore, Miss Lin's detailed recollections regarding the alterations to her father's study and the disposition of his personal effects raise serious questions about your client's true intentions as caretakers." Finch opened his mouth, a protest already forming, but the judge silenced him with a raised hand. "Therefore," she continued, her voice resonating with authority, "the emergency injunction granted last night will stand. All proposed sales or transfers of title for the property at 123 Willow Creek Drive are hereby frozen pending a full investigation into the administration of Mr. Han Lin's estate and the circumstances surrounding Miss Lin Wei's incapacitation." A gavel rap, sharp and final, punctuated her words. "A hearing will be scheduled to review these matters in detail. I expect full cooperation from all parties." She then fixed Zhao Mei and Chen Gang with a steely look. "And I would strongly advise Mr. Chen and Mrs. Lin Chen to secure counsel who is thoroughly versed in estate law and fiduciary responsibilities. Mr. Finch, you may have your work cut out for you." David squeezed my arm gently. "We did it, Lin Wei," he whispered, relief evident in his voice. "This is a significant win." "It's a start, David," I murmured back. a knot of tension easing in my chest, only to be replaced by a chilling premonition as I saw the look on Chen Gong's face. He wasn't just angry, he was incandescent with a rage that promised retribution. As we filed out of the courtroom, Zhao Mei was weeping openly now, dabbing at her eyes with a crumpled tissue, her earlier defiance gone. Finch was attempting to console her with platitudes that clearly weren't working. "It's an outrage, a travesty of justice," he muttered, loud enough for us to hear. "Don't worry, Mei, we will appeal this. She won't get away with these slanderous accusations." Chen Gong, however, was eerily silent, his eyes, like chips of obsidian, fixed on me. We stepped into the echoing corridor, the courthouse buzz a distant hum. "He's not taking this well," David observed quietly, his gaze flickering towards Chen Gong, who was now striding purposefully towards us, his wife and lawyer trailing in his wake like flotsam. "Stay behind me, Linwei." But it was too late. Before David could position himself, Chen Gong was upon us, his hands shooting out, fingers like iron bands closing around my upper arm. I flinched, a gasp escaping me as pain shot through my bicep. "Fine," he snarled, his face inches from mine, his breath reeking of stale coffee and malice. "You want to play hardball, you little ghost? You think you've won because some judge gave you a piece of paper." His grip tightened, and I could feel a bruise already forming. Zhao Mei cried out, "Chen Gong, no, not here." "Shut up, Mei," he barked without looking at her. His eyes, burning with a terrifying intensity, bored into mine. "You want to know about this house? About your precious daddy?" He practically spat the words. "You think he was some kind of saint leaving you this shrine?" He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Let me tell you, there's more to this house, more to your sainted father than you could ever imagine. He wasn't the man you think he was." "You want the truth? I'll show you the truth. Let me show you what your precious daddy really left behind." He gave my arm a vicious shake. "Then see how much you want this damn house." David stepped forward, his voice firm. "Chen Gang, release her immediately, or I'll have the bailiff add a salt to your growing list of problems." Chen Gong's eyes flickered to David, a sneer twisting his lips, but then surprisingly his grip loosened, and he shoved me back a step. "You want to know?" he repeated, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial, venomous hiss. "Come home. I'll give you a private tour, a real look at the estate." His words, dripping with insinuation, hung in the air long after he and a now thoroughly cowed Zhao Mei, along with a pale Finch, retreated down the corridor. My arm throbbed, but it was the chill his threat had sent down my spine that truly unnerved me. "What did he mean, David?" I asked, rubbing the tender flesh. "What could he possibly show me about Dad that would—" "What?" "It's a bluff, Linwei," David said, though his eyes were troubled. "He's cornered, lashing out, trying to intimidate you, to make you back down." But the way he said it, what your precious daddy really left behind, it felt personal, like he knows something I don't, something that could change everything. My mind raced. Dad? A secret? It was unthinkable. My father had been the most straightforward, honest man I'd ever known. His life was an open book, or so I'd always believed. "David, what if it's not a bluff?" I felt a sudden sickening lurch in my stomach. What if there's something truly awful he can reveal? The thought, once planted, began to take root, its tendrils coiling around the certainty I'd felt just moments before. Could my fight for this house, for his memory, unearth something that would shatter that memory entirely? The midpoint reversal the universe seemed so fond of dealing me was hitting hard. For the next 24 hours, that question would be my tormentor. I knew, with a dreadful certainty that settled deep in my bones, that Chen Gong's threat wasn't idle. In less than a day, perhaps in that very basement apartment where they'd hidden their illicit income, I would be confronted with something, some piece of evidence, some dark revelation tied to my father that would force me to reevaluate everything I held sacred. The thought was terrifying. "He wants me to follow him, doesn't he?" I said, more to myself than to David. "He's baiting me." "And you're considering taking it?" David asked, his concern evident. "Linwei, this could be dangerous. He's volatile." We should report this threat to the judge, to the police. And say what? That he offered to show me something in my own house? I shook my head. They wouldn't understand the implication, not yet. No, David. He has something, or he thinks he has something. And if it concerns my father, I have to know. I can't live with the doubt. My resolve hardened, pushing through the fear. If there's a skeleton in Dad's closet, I need to be the one to find it, not have Chen Gang wave its bones in my face in court. I pictured the basement, cold and damp, a place of secrets. What could be hidden there? Financial misdeeds? A hidden life? The possibilities, each more dreadful than the last, spun through my mind. He mentioned the basement apartment before in his rage when I showed him the injunction papers at the house, I recalled aloud. He was furious I knew about their tenant. Maybe the evidence is there. Or maybe he's just trying to lure you into a vulnerable situation, David cautioned, his legal mind cataloging risks. If you insist on going, I'm coming with you. No arguments. I nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. I wouldn't have it any other way. But first, we follow his current invitation. Come home, he said. The irony wasn't lost on me. Going home felt like walking into the lion's den, but the lion held a key to a past I suddenly realized I didn't fully understand. The drive to Willow Creek Drive was thick with unspoken tension. David drove my car, another mystery of my return, its presence in the hospital parking lot, keys in the ignition. While I stared out the window, the familiar streets of my childhood now seeming alien, imbued with a sinister undertone. I half expected Chen Gang and Zhao Mei to have disappeared, to have used the time to flee, but their car was parked haphazardly in the driveway when we pulled up. Ready for the private tour? David asked, his attempt at levity falling a little flat. Showtime, I replied, trying to match his tone, though my heart hammered. We found them in the living room, the air stale with resentment. Zhao Mei was perched on the edge of the sofa, looking utterly defeated, while Chen Gang paced like a caged animal. He stopped when he saw us, a wolfish grin spreading across his face. Well, 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 look who decided to take me up on my offer. Couldn't stay away, could you, little ghost? Curiosity getting the better of you? This is my house, Chen Gang, I stated, keeping my voice even. I don't need an invitation. You said you had something to show me about my father. I'm here to see it. Oh, I've got something to show you, all right. He chuckled, a nasty, grating sound. He glanced at Zhao Mei. Mei, maybe you should wait in the kitchen. This might be upsetting for delicate sensibilities. Zhao Mei looked from him to me, her eyes wide with a new kind of fear, not for herself this time, but for what was about to be revealed. Chen Gang, don't, she whispered, her voice trembling. Please. There's no need for this. It won't change anything. Oh, I think it might change quite a lot, my dear, he retorted dismissively. He then turned his attention to Dad's portrait, the one that hung over the mantelpiece. It was a beautiful oil painting, capturing Dad's kind eyes and gentle smile, a comfort to me throughout my childhood. During her packing frenzy, Zhao Mei had gestured towards it with contempt. That old thing, she'd said to her reflection in the hallway mirror, unaware I was watching. It's practically worthless, just taking up space. Might as well donate it with the rest of her junk. Now, Chen Gang walked towards it, a strange, triumphant gleam in his eye. Your mother always had terrible taste in art and even worse judgment about what's truly valuable. He reached up, and instead of taking the portrait down, his fingers fumbled along the ornate frame. There was a faint click, and a section of the wall behind the portrait seemed to give way. He swung the portrait outward like a door, revealing a small, dark, recessed cavity. A wall safe. My breath caught in my throat. A safe? Behind Dad's portrait? All these years, and I never knew. Zhao Mei gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Chen Gang, no! He made you promise! Promises are for fools, Mei, he sneered, already fiddling with the safe's combination dial. And your precious Han Lin was the biggest fool of them all if he thought his secrets would stay buried forever. He spun the dial with practiced ease. Click, whir, click. The heavy steel door of the safe swung open with a low groan. The heavy door of the safe creaked open, revealing a cramped interior stuffed with manila envelopes and official-looking documents. Chen Gong reached in, a smirk playing on his lips, clearly expecting to pull out something that would devastate me. Feast your eyes, little ghost, he sneered. Let's see how righteous you feel after this. But before he could select his weapon of choice, I stepped forward, my phone already in my hand, camera app open. Don't bother, Chen Gong, I said, my voice surprisingly calm despite the tremor in my hands. I'll document everything, for the record. David, who had been watching with grim fascination, put a hand on Chen Gong's arm. I think it's best if Miss Lin examines these herself, don't you? Under my supervision, of course. Chen Gong shrugged him off but didn't stop me as I began to carefully extract the contents. Go ahead, he jeered. Dig your own grave. The first envelope contained insurance policies, multiple policies on my father's life, with Zhao Mei listed as the primary beneficiary. Nothing inherently shocking there, except one was new, taken out only 6 months before his death for a substantial sum. And stapled to it was a change of beneficiary form, dated just 2 weeks before his fatal heart attack, removing me as a secondary beneficiary and making Zhao Mei the sole recipient. My blood ran cold. What is this? I whispered, holding up the form. Zhao Mei, still hovering near the doorway, refused to meet my eyes. Chen Gong just grinned. Smart business, that's what that is. Planning for the future. The next was a series of bank statements for an offshore account I'd never known existed, with large, unexplained withdrawals in the months leading up to Dad's death, all signed off by Zhao Mei using power of attorney. Then, tucked at the very back, was a thick, sealed envelope addressed to me in Dad's familiar, elegant script. My hands trembled so violently I could barely hold it. Across the front, he'd written, For Lin Wei, to be opened only if something happens to me. A date was scrawled beneath, 1 week before he died. Oh, Dad, I breathed, a wave of nausea washing over me. Insurance policies, changed beneficiaries, secret withdrawals, a final letter. This wasn't an accident. This was a carefully orchestrated plot. My father hadn't just died, he'd been murdered. And the people responsible were standing right here in this room. I began photographing every single page with my phone, the clicks of the camera shutter unnaturally loud in the suffocating silence. Each photo was another nail in their coffins. Life insurance payout directly to Mom, check. I narrated in a low, shaking voice, more for myself than for them. Secondary beneficiary removed, check. Offshore account drained, check. A letter from Dad written a week before his heart attack. I wonder what secrets that holds. Zhao Mei must have seen the terrible understanding dawning in my eyes, the shift from bewildered grief to cold, hard certainty. She saw the photos accumulating on my phone, undeniable proof of their scheme. Panic finally galvanized her into action. No! She shrieked, lunging towards me, her hands outstretched, not in a motherly embrace, but like claws aiming for my phone. You don't understand what you're doing. Give me that. David moved to intercept, but she was surprisingly fast, fueled by desperation. I sidestepped her clumsy attack, holding the phone high above my head. Oh, I think I understand perfectly, Zhao Mei, I said, the name tasting like ash in my mouth. The mom I knew, the one who baked cookies and helped with homework, had been a phantom, a carefully crafted illusion. The real woman stood before me, a greedy, desperate creature stripped of her disguise. I understand that my father didn't just die. I understand that these documents aren't just papers. They're a roadmap to his murder. My voice was shaking, but not with fear. With a rage so profound it was almost a physical force. You killed him, didn't you? You and Chen Gang? You killed him for his money. I lowered my gaze to meet hers, unflinching. And then you tried to kill me for the house. Chen Gang let out a harsh laugh. Big words from a little girl who just came back from the dead. You can't prove a thing. Can't I? I shot back, gesturing with the phone. These documents tell a pretty compelling story. A sudden new insurance policy, changed beneficiaries, a secret letter written just days before his convenient heart attack. It's not exactly subtle, is it? Even for you two. Zhao Mei was sobbing now, great gulping sounds. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she wailed, collapsing against the doorframe. He wasn't supposed to. It was just. We were in trouble. In trouble? I echoed, my voice dripping with contempt. You were in trouble. So you decided murdering your husband and trying to murder your daughter was the best way out? That's your excuse. Your father was going to leave us with nothing. Zhao Mei suddenly screamed, her voice raw with a fury that matched my own, her carefully maintained facade cracking, shattering into a million pieces. The grief, the fear, it all boiled over into a torrent of hateful confession. Nothing. Do you hear me, Linwei? He found out. He knew everything. Her eyes were wild, her hair disheveled as she pushed herself away from the wall, advancing on me again, though David now stood as a barrier. He found out about Chen Geng's gambling debts, the ones that were going to ruin us. He found out about Chen Geng's other family, the one he had tucked away in another city. My stomach churned. Another family? This was news even to me. Chen Geng looked momentarily flustered by this particular revelation, shooting Zhao Mei a venomous glare. Mei, shut your damn mouth, he hissed, but she was beyond reason, beyond his control. No, she needs to know what kind of man her sainted father really was, how unreasonable he became, she shrieked at me. He was going to divorce me. He told me so. He said I was a disgrace, that Chen Geng was a parasite, and that he was changing his will to leave everything to you. The house, the money, all of it. We would have been destitute, thrown out on the street with nothing. Her chest heaved with ragged breaths, her face contorted with years of resentment and greed. He gave us no choice. What were we supposed to do? Just let him destroy our lives? The confession hung in the air, ugly and irrefutable. So that was it, the final piece. Dad knew. He was going to protect me, to ensure his legacy wasn't squandered by these two vultures. And for that, they had silenced him. And then, they had come for me. So you killed him, I stated flatly, the horror of it settling into a cold, hard knot in my gut. Before he could change the will, before he could expose you both. My phone, still clutched in my hand, vibrated with an incoming text. With my eyes still locked on Zhao Mei's ravaged face, I surreptitiously glanced down. It was from David, who must have slipped out during Zhao Mei's tirade, using the commotion to his advantage. The message was short, stark, and the most beautiful words I'd read all day. Police are here. Show them the photos now. A wave of profound relief, so intense it almost buckled my knees, washed over me. David, you magnificent bastard, I breathed internally. He'd done it. He'd gotten through. The cavalry was literally at the gates. I could hear it now, a faint, distant sound, almost imperceptible at first, then growing steadily louder. The unmistakable keen of police sirens cutting through the quiet afternoon air. They were close. Very close. Zhao Mei heard it too. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with a fresh wave of terror. Even Chen Geng, who had been watching his wife's meltdown with a mixture of fury and contempt, froze. His head cocked, listening. The confident smirk was gone, replaced by a dawning look of animalistic panic. He knew what those sirens meant. The sound was a death knell for their carefully constructed lies. Police, Zhao Mei whispered, her voice barely audible. How? The sirens were much louder now, resolving into multiple distinct wails converging on our street. Flashing blue and red lights began to strobe through the living room windows, painting the walls in grotesque dancing colors. Time seemed to slow. Zhao Mei looked like she was about to faint. Chen Geng, however, reacted with a terrifying speed that belied his earlier lethargy. His eyes darted towards the front door, then to me, then to the damning phone still in my hand. A chillingly calm, almost predatory expression settled on his face. He wasn't going down without a fight. You shouldn't have come back, little ghost, he said, his voice a low, dangerous growl. You've ruined everything. He took a step towards me, and his right hand moved deliberately, purposefully towards the inside of his jacket. My blood turned to ice. A gun. He had to have a gun. My mind raced. The police were outside, but they weren't inside yet. Between Chen Geng and me were only a few feet of Persian carpet. I had maybe 30 seconds, if that, before this escalated from fraud, from conspiracy to commit murder, to actual present-tense murder with me as the star victim. The letter from my father, still unread, suddenly felt like a lead weight in my pocket. Would I even live to read his final words? The heavy thud of a battering ram against the front door was the first clear sound that pierced the adrenaline-fueled haze, immediately followed by the splintering crash of wood and the roar of authoritative voices. "Police! Everybody down! Show me your hands!" The living room, moments before a stage for familial treachery, exploded into chaos. In the split second it took for uniformed officers to flood the entryway, Chen Gong completed his draw. The metallic gleam of a small, snub-nosed revolver appeared in his hand, looking shockingly real and deadly against the backdrop of chintz curtains and family photos. "No!" Zhao Mei screamed, a raw, terrified sound, scrambling backward and tripping over an ottoman, collapsing in a heap. My own breath hitched, my survival instincts screaming at me to drop, to hide, but my feet felt rooted to the spot, the damning phone still clutched in my hand. The scene seemed to shift in nightmarish slow motion. Chen Gang, instead of pointing the weapon at the advancing officers, pivoted, his wild eyes fixing on me. He dragged me sideways, a rough arm snaking around my neck, the cold metal of the gun pressing against my temple. The momentum carried us stumbling from the living room, through the archway and into the formal dining room. This room, with its heavy mahogany table and chairs, its crystal chandelier, was where we used to have Sunday dinners when I was a child, when Dad was alive, when family felt like a warm, safe word. Now it was the arena for the final desperate act of a cornered criminal. The irony was a bitter pill. "Nobody move!" Chen Gong bellowed, his voice cracking with panic and rage, his arm tightening painfully around my throat. "I swear to God I'll shoot her! Back off!" He was using me as a shield, the ultimate coward's move. The scent of his fear, mingled with stale sweat and something else, something metallic and dangerous, filled my nostrils. "He's got a hostage!" An officer yelled from the living room, the sound slightly muffled. "Armed suspect with hostage in the dining area." "Drop the weapon, now!" A commanding voice cut through the cacophony. A tall officer, shield up, service weapon aimed steadily, stood framed in the dining room doorway, his partners fanning out behind him. Chen Gang's eyes, wide and bloodshot, darted between the officer and me, his chest heaving. The gun trembled against my skin. "Stay back!" he shrieked, his voice hoarse. "She's going to destroy everything. Everything we built. You don't understand what it's like to have nothing, to be pushed into a corner with no way out." His grip on me was suffocating, and I struggled for breath, tasting the metallic tang of fear in my mouth. She did this! Coming back from the dead, poking her nose where it didn't belong. We had a plan, a good plan. "Son, there's no plan that ends well with you holding that gun," the lead officer stated, his voice remarkably calm despite the lethal tension. "Whatever you think she's done, whatever you think you've lost, you're about to lose a whole lot more if you don't put that weapon down. Your life, for starters." "My life?" Chen Gong laughed, a ragged, broken sound. "My life was over the minute she walked back into this house. She's taken everything. The money, the house, our future. We worked for years to build something, anything, after he left May with practically nothing but debts." This was a new lie, a desperate attempt to reframe their greed as victimhood. "Your father!" He spat, his face contorting as he addressed me, though his eyes were on the police. "He was a cruel man under all that saintly pretense. He controlled everything, even from the grave." The officer took a slow, deliberate step into the room. "None of that matters right now, son. What matters is that gun in your hand and the young lady you're threatening. Let her go. We can talk about this. There's always a way to talk." "I know exactly what it's like," I choked out, the words rasping past the pressure on my throat. My voice was quiet, barely a whisper, but it cut through Chen Gong's tirade and the officer's careful negotiations. All eyes, even Chen Gang's, momentarily flickered to me. Despite the gun at my head, despite the terror that threatened to paralyze me, a strange calm settled over me. This was my stage now. "I know what it's like to have nothing, Chen Gong, to feel like everything has been stolen from you." I took a shallow, painful breath, and then, with a recklessness born of having already faced death once, I did the unthinkable. I pushed slightly against his hold, not enough to break free, but enough to turn my head, to look him as directly in the eye as I could. "I died alone in a hospital bed, I said, my voice gaining a little strength, each word imbued with the chilling memory. Gasping for air, wondering why my own mother hadn't come to visit me one last time. Thinking I was utterly worthless, completely unloved, a piece of forgotten trash. The raw honesty of it seemed to stun him into momentary silence. Even the lead officer paused, his gaze softening almost imperceptibly. I lay there, Chengang, and I had nothing. No future, no family, not even a memory of kindness from the woman who gave me life. So don't you dare tell me I don't know what it's like. My quiet words, laden with the weight of my ordeal, seemed to hang heavy in the opulent dining room, a stark contrast to his loud, self-pitying rage. The gun against my temple didn't waver, but something in his wild eyes flickered. Confusion, perhaps even a sliver of dawning shame. Or maybe I was just projecting. But you came back! The wail came from the direction of the living room. Zhao Mei, she must have crawled or been helped to her feet. I couldn't see her, but her voice, thick with tears and despair, was unmistakable. It sounded like she was just outside the dining room archway, perhaps cowering behind an overturned chair, as the outline had so presciently suggested. "You didn't stay dead?" she sobbed, her voice a pathetic counterpoint to the tense standoff. "You came back, Linwei, and now everyone will know. Everyone will know what we did. Oh God, what have we done?" Her confession, blurted out in a paroxysm of fear and guilt, was an unexpected gift. The officers in the doorway exchanged glances. This was better than a signed statement. "It's over, Mei," Chen Gong snarled, his attention momentarily diverted, his grip on me tightening again. "Shut up. You're not helping." "But it is over, Chen Gang," she cried back. "Don't you see? She knows everything. They'll lock us up forever. Our lives, everything we planned. It's all gone because she didn't die." Her words, meant to lament their fate, only served to incriminate them further. "She's right, Chen Gong," I said, my voice still quiet but firm. "It is over. And yes, Mother, everyone will know." I could feel his hand, the one holding the gun, begin to tremble against my skin. He was losing it, his bravado crumbling under the weight of his wife's admissions and the unwavering presence of the police. "They'll know about the insurance fraud, won't they?" I continued, pressing my advantage, my voice a steady metronome counting down their final moments of freedom. "About how you took out new policies and conveniently changed beneficiaries just before Dad's accident." I felt Chen Gong flinch. "They'll know about the forged will, the one you concocted to try and legitimize your theft after Dad was gone." The shaking in his hand intensified. "And yes, Zhao Mei," I said, pitching my voice so she could hear me clearly. "They'll know about Dad's murder, about how you two conspired to end his life because he found out about your gambling, Chen Gang, about your secret second family, and because he was going to divorce you and leave you with the nothing you so richly deserved." Each accusation was a hammer blow, and I could feel his composure shattering. His breathing became ragged, a desperate, trapped sound. "But here's the part you don't know," I said, letting a bead of silence hang in the air before delivering the coup de grace. "The part that seals your fate beyond any shadow of a doubt. While Zhao Mei was having her rather theatrical meltdown just now, confessing to pretty much everything, I recorded it. I recorded your entire conversation, Chen Gong. Every threat, every admission. Starting about 20 minutes ago, back when you were so proud to show me the contents of Dad's safe. With as much steadiness as I could muster while a gun was still pressed to my head, I lifted my phone, angling the screen so Chen Gang and peripherally the officers could see it. The audio recording app was still running, the timer ticking upwards, the red record button glowing malevolently. "It's all here," I stated, my voice hardening with a cold, final triumph. Every incriminating word, Zhao Mei's detailed confession about why you had to kill Dad, your own charming admission that I shouldn't have come back. It's quite the listen. Chen Gong stared at the phone, his eyes wide with disbelief, then a dawning, horrified comprehension. The fight visibly drained out of him, replaced by a slack-jawed despair. The gun sagged in his trembling hand. "And the best part?" I added, twisting the knife just a little bit more. "This entire recording, along with all the photos of the documents from the safe, has been automatically uploading to a secure cloud server. It was also, as of about 10 minutes ago, emailed directly to David Kim's office. So even if you shoot me right now, Chen Gang, even if you smash this phone, it's too late. The evidence is out. Everyone who matters already has it, or will within minutes. The lead officer saw his chance. It's over, son, he said, his voice firm but devoid of menace now. Put the gun down, slowly. There's nowhere left for you to go. Chen Gang's shoulders slumped. The wildness in his eyes faded, leaving behind a hollow, defeated look. The gun clattered from his nerveless fingers onto the polished mahogany floor, the sound echoing the finality of their downfall. As his arm fell away from my neck, I stumbled forward, gasping for breath, the police rushing in to secure him. The click of handcuffs, a sweet, sweet music to my ears. The flashing lights of the emergency vehicles painted the familiar facade of my childhood home in stark, unsettling hues of red and blue. Paramedics were checking me over, fussing about the bruising handprint Chen Gang had left on my arm and the angry red mark around my neck. I waved them off, my gaze fixed on the scene unfolding by the curb. Chen Gang, his face a mask of stony defeat, was being loaded into the back of a police cruiser, the click of the closing door echoing with a satisfying finality. Zhao Mei, looking utterly broken and almost childlike in her despair, was being led to another car, her quiet sobs the only sound she made. A plainclothes detective, a woman with kind eyes but a no-nonsense demeanor named Miller, approached me. "Miss Lin," she began gently, "that was quite an ordeal. You showed incredible courage in there. Most people would have crumbled." She gestured towards the departing police cars. "They'll be facing a raft of charges thanks to you in that recording. Attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, the works. We'll need your formal statement down at the station, of course, when you're ready." I nodded, still feeling a little numb. The adrenaline slowly ebbing away, leaving a profound weariness in its wake. "There's just one thing I don't quite get," Detective Miller mused, her brow furrowed. "All this, the house, the money tied up in it, they were clearly desperate for it, but you fought for it like a lioness. Was it really just about the inheritance?" I looked at the house. My house, Dad's house, standing steadfast against the night sky. "The house was never about the money, Detective," I said, my voice quiet but firm, echoing the conviction that had fueled me through this nightmare. "The money is just things. Replaceable. This house." I paused, searching for the right words. "This house is where my father lived, where he laughed, where he taught me about honesty and resilience. It was about making sure Dad's memory had a place to live, a place where it wouldn't be tainted or erased by their greed. It was about him." Detective Miller nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "I think," she said softly, "your father would be incredibly proud of you, Miss Lin." A faint smile touched my lips. "I hope so, Detective. I really do." 6 months later, the scent of sawdust and fresh paint had replaced the lingering miasma of betrayal and fear. I was in Dad's study, my study now, though it would always feel like his, covered in a fine layer of plaster dust, a crowbar in hand, midway through prying off some hideous faux wood paneling Chen Gang had installed over Dad's beloved cherry wood. Sunlight streamed through the newly cleaned windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, hopeful sprites. The poker table and neon beer sign had been the first things to go, unceremoniously dumped on the curb for bulk trash pickup. The room was slowly, painstakingly being restored to its former glory, to the sanctuary of warmth and intellect I remembered. It was during this renovation, while carefully sorting through the few books of Dad's that had survived Zhao Mei's purge, that I found it. Tucked inside a hollowed-out first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird, one of his absolute favorites, was another thick envelope, older and more worn than the one from the safe. My heart leaped. With trembling fingers, I opened it. Inside, penned in his familiar steady hand, was his real will, dated years before his death, long before Zhao Mei's and Chen Gong's darkness had truly taken root. It was simple, clear, and filled with his love. After a few small bequests to old friends, including a generous one to David Kim, the final paragraph read, "And all the rest, residue, and remainder of my estate, both real and personal, including my home at 123 Willow Creek Drive, which holds so many of our shared memories, I give, devise, and bequeath to my beloved daughter, Lin Wei. He had underlined beloved, then a handwritten addendum, almost like an afterthought, but it was the part that made me weep. For I know she is the only one who will truly understand its heart, and who will love this house enough to fight for it, should the need ever arise. May it always be your safe harbor, my brave girl. Oh, Dad, I whispered, tears blurring the precious words. You knew. You always knew. He hadn't left me defenseless. He'd left me a legacy of trust and the means to protect it. The basement apartment, once a source of illicit income for my captors, now echoed with the quiet sounds of diligent study. It housed a bright young scholarship student from Dad's old university, a young woman with dreams as big as her intellect, studying astrophysics of all things. Dad would have loved that. Her name was Anya, and she sometimes left small, shyly offered bouquets of wildflowers from the campus gardens on my doorstep. Thank you, Miss Lynn, she'd written in a card accompanying the first one. You've given me more than a place to live. You've given me a chance to reach for the stars. I promise to make you and your father proud. It felt right, using the space to foster a dream instead of funding a deception. As for Zhao Mei, her letters from prison, filled with pleas for forgiveness, rambling justifications, and belated declarations of maternal love, arrived with disturbing regularity. Each one, unopened, went straight from the mailbox into the shredder, the whirring blades a satisfying symphony of severance. No, Mother, I'd find myself saying to the silent room, the words a firm, unyielding mantra. There are no second chances for what you did. Some betrayals cut too deep to ever heal. The past was a scar, not an open wound to be constantly picked at. She had made her choices, and now she and Chen Gang were living with the consequences. My choice was to move forward, to rebuild, to honor the legacy of the man they had tried so hard to erase. But sometimes, in the deep quiet of the night, when the old house settled around me with its familiar creaks and sighs, I would hear it. A whisper. Her voice, or what my memory conjured of it from a time before the darkness, tinged with a sorrow that felt almost genuine. I'm so sorry, Wei Wei. It would seem to sigh on the edges of my awareness. I never meant for any of this. It all went so terribly wrong. Can you ever forgive me? It wasn't real, of course. It was just the echo of a bond that had been irrevocably shattered, a phantom limb of a relationship that no longer existed. I never answered the voice. Forgiveness was a distant country I wasn't sure I ever wanted to visit, not where she was concerned. The sorrow was hers to bear, not mine to alleviate. My peace came from justice, from reclaiming my life and my father's memory, not from absolving the unabsolvable. Yet the whisper served as a reminder. Even in victory, some ghosts linger. The house remembered everything. It remembered the laughter of my childhood, the quiet hum of Dad's contentment in his study, the warmth of our Sunday dinners in the formal dining room. It also remembered the chill of Zhao Mei's growing greed, the subtle poison of Chen Gang's influence, the terror of their final desperate acts, and the satisfying click of handcuffs. It held all those memories within its walls, a silent, steadfast witness. And so did I. I remembered the love, the betrayal, the fight, and the slow, painstaking journey back to myself. And I will ensure, I whispered to the quiet, moonlit study, my hand resting on Dad's old oak desk, that neither of us ever forgets the truth. Not ever. The house and I would carry the story forward, a testament to survival, to justice, and to a love strong enough to literally bring someone back from the brink to fight for it.